water cooling, wheels, belt packs, and paint sticks? Hey everyone, welcome to Keep Shooting Monday, number 120. My name is Greg Cazillo from Cazillo.com. So if you are following me on Twitter, here's my handle again, shameless plug. I was installing one of these bad boys. This is a liquid CPU cooler with a radiator and a water pump and hoses and liquid. It's a sealed pump, or a sealed system, I should say. Basically, this guy uses liquid to cool your CPU in your computer rather than just air and a heatsink. Now, the old one that I had was not very good. It was allowing my temperatures when I'd export a video where I would push it really hard up to about 100 degrees Celsius, maybe 101 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot. It's too hot. That temperature is too hot. Over time, it's going to be harder on the CPU, harder on the motherboard. It had not shut down on me. It hadn't gotten too hot that it was going to shut down, but that's borderline. That's getting pretty darn hot. So what I ended up doing is I needed to upgrade to a better cooling system, get rid of this old stock cooler. So this guy, again, has a water pump and a radiator and coolant lines, and so it has everything built in. It's a closed system, never need to refill it. Also comes with a new fan. The only thing that I'm not sure about so far is having to put the rear fan pumping in the back instead of pushing out the back. The right way, or the normal way, I should say, is to have the air pushing out the back and then coming in the front. But I had to switch them all around, so I switched all my fans. I may end up with some more dust in the case because of that, but it's not the end of the world because I don't have a heat sink like this one to hold all that dust. So, because usually your CPU heatsink is the one that kind of gathers all that dust. So we'll see. I'm going to do some testing, see what's going on. So far, I've been really happy with it. It lowered my CPU temperatures while exporting a video about 25 degrees, maybe 30 degrees. My maximum so far when exporting was, I think, the high 60s, 60 degrees Celsius, 65, 68 degrees Celsius, which is really good for just installing a single unit that cost me $55, I think it was. So it's a step in the right direction, cools down the CPU, allows me to overclock it a little bit harder, and so far it's been a worthy investment, definitely over that original stock cooler. So check that guy out if you guys build your own computers. I definitely never thought, after building my own computers for 25 years, that I would end up putting water in the same case as my CPU, as my computer. That kind of blows my mind, but if it works and it doesn't destroy it, I'm all for it. Keeps it cooler. That's what matters. So I was working with a company. Let me back up. I'm working on a DIY camera slider. There was a video on the internet that I saw a while back that looks really interesting, and I can't wait to build a similar version, although mine's going to be a little bit more heavy duty, a little bit more industrial, but you could certainly build this same one, and I'll tell you more about that coming up in a video very soon. Anyway, I've been looking for the right size wheels and the right kind of wheels. I came across a company here in the United States called CamonWheels. They make these wheels specifically for that purpose, for sliders or dollies, multiple purposes. They have different sizes. They have rigs that you can attach right to the bottom of your tripod. They have all kinds of really stuff. They have track. They have everything that you can use basically to build your own system. So they sent over these wheels. They're going to fit perfectly on the size pipe that I'm going to be using, and so these are really awesome. Thank you very much for sending these over, and I'll have a better review and show you these to you in action very, very soon. Not only do they build those things, those wheels and track and all that stuff, they also allow you to utilize these things, which is a paint stick. Basically, it's an extension. It goes out like that, and it would be great for photography, especially the DIYers. But there's no way to get this huge thread onto the bottom of your strobe because that's only a little 1/4-20 thread. So they make this really cool aluminum adapter. It screws right on the end. And then you have your 1/4-20 adapter, which you can then screw onto the bottom of your strobe, like so. And then you can extend it and put it wherever you would need to put it. If you have an assistant, this would be perfect for that. If you have a boom arm, you could just use a super clamp and then have a boom and have it pointed down. That would work. I have another adapter that would allow you to put it at different angles like that. A lot of really cool stuff that you could do with this adapter. They also make a larger one, which is right here. This larger one will give you a 3/8 thread right there instead of a simple little, instead of just a 1/4-20. And it also comes with your spigot, which will allow you to connect other stuff to that, whether it's a larger light or something like that. You'll be able to connect stuff to that, and obviously that has that other smaller adapter right there for the 1/4-20. One of the things that they talk about a lot with this is putting a GoPro camera on this. So it comes with a little, when you buy one of these as the GoPro kit, it comes with a little GoPro adapter with a 1/4-20 on the bottom. And then you can screw that right on there, attach your GoPro, and again, put this wherever you need to put it. I mean, you could just, if you're really low budget, you could just duct tape this thing to a pole or something like that and make it work. So this is an interesting little toy. They start at like 15 bucks. Then just go to the hardware store and pick up a paint stick, or maybe you already have one of these in the garage, and it's going to work. I mean, heck, you could even use this thing as a super low budget monopod. It's not going to be the prettiest monopod in the world, but it's got a decent height. I mean, I guess that's a 6-foot pole right there, and so, you know, it's going to do the trick in a pinch. So check out those adapters from CamonWheels. I'll put up links to it, and again, I'll have another video coming very soon talking about the DIY slider that I'm working on. What else are we going to talk about today? Oh, we're going to talk about belt packs. I had a question about belt packs today, but I also wanted to follow up with a discussion that I had started, which is the ink cost. I noticed some additional reviews this week on the Canon printers, and I went back over to Red River's website, and they seem to be running, well, I know that they run a lot of printers. They have a lot of machines in their warehouse. They do a lot of printer profiling, paper profiling, matching up papers with different printers. They have thousands of profiles to make sure that everything works correctly and looks great, because that's super important, because they want to make sure that when they're sending you a paper, that paper is going to give you the right color with your machine, whatever printer you have. So last week I talked about the ink cost, which ended up being really inexpensive, especially when comparing it to a print lab when you send it out. But I wanted to see what the Canon versus the Epson difference was in price. So Red River has 10 different Epson printers and 6 different Canon printers. Figure out the ink cost. For a 4x6 size, the Epson average was 19 cents. For the Canon average for, again, 4x6 print was 24 cents. For an 8x10, the Epson average was 74 and the Canon was 83. And again, this is just the ink cost. This is not the paper. So that right there shows us that it's 5 cents less for a 4x6. It is 9 cents less for an 8x10 print if you're going with an Epson printer versus a Canon printer. Now, of course, your mileage may vary. There might be one use a little bit more ink than another. But just the ink cost itself, you're talking the Epson being having the slight edge on that. And if you're doing a lot of printing, you're doing a lot of production, you're better off with the lower cost machine that ends up being actually a better machine, in my opinion. When I look at the prints, when I look at the size of the printer and the quality and the issues that I've seen with other Canon printers, this one, the Canons are just don't quite perform as well from what I have seen as the Epsons, and the Epsons end up being a lower cost. So check that out, and I'll put a link over to Red River's website so that you can take a look at that for yourself. Oh, and make sure you watch last week's video where I talked about the total cost of inkjet printing versus sending it out to a lab. Next up, a couple of Cazillion questions. I have a white dog and I'm using a white background, but it doesn't look good. Which one should I use? Looks like you have a cute little Chihuahua right there in your profile picture. So he does look nice and bright and white. And yes, that will be a difficult shot, but it's actually not as difficult as you think. What it comes down to is setting the proper lighting ratios. Your background, you need to make about a stop or a stop and a half brighter than your foreground. And then make sure that foreground is, the main light is about a stop and a half under what the background would be. And then you want your fill light to, once again, be about another half a stop, maybe 3/4 of a stop under that one. I did a video on this a couple of years ago. Here's a link to it. Check that out. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Basically, what you're looking for is a high key setup and a white on white. Not difficult at all. Here's another sample, which is a little egg that I did. It can be done. It's just a matter of setting your lighting ratios properly. I noticed in your videos at the Epson booth, you seem to be using a belt system to carry gear. Would you be able to talk a little about the system you use and how you find it? The belt system that I have comes from Think Tank Photo. They have so many options when it comes to bags. I absolutely love their gear, and this system is the perfect example of it because it's so modular, so many ideas, and so many different things that you can do with it. So Luke had a couple different questions, but first let's talk a little bit about the system itself. This is the belt. This is actually the Pro Speed Belt. They actually come in 3 different kinds. The Pro Speed Belt, the Thin Skin Belt, and the Steroid Skin Speed Belt. Sorry. So they have 3 different versions. I went with the Pro Speed Belt because I wanted to be able to either attach things in a certain place, which you can do and it'll lock in, or you can then slide it around. And I prefer to be able to slide them around, so that's why I went that way. They have a ton of different pouches for it. They have different ones like this one will actually expand down for a longer lens, which is pretty cool. The belt itself, when you're wearing it, you're going to need to make it pretty tight. Obviously, they make them in different sizes. I'm a bigger guy, so I needed the longest one. It's definitely something that you can wear for an extended period of time. I didn't have an issue wearing it, especially with some gear, a couple lenses, that kind of thing. Talking about the different pouches, this is just a square one for pretty much whatever. You can put a smaller lens in here or whatever gear. Obviously, the lens pouches for different sizes. This one is actually a water bottle pouch, which works out great because you always need to be drinking water. This one is made for the system, and it's actually made for your iPad. It's called an app house, APP house, and it's made for a 10-inch tablet. You can get a lot of stuff in this thing, pens and pencils, and obviously the tablet itself. You put your phone in here, an additional battery pack, all right inside of there. Here's another size lens drop-in, and another one, and this is then a strobe one that you can use. So there's a lot of different options within this system that you can just customize it and make it exactly how you want to make it. Now, Luke had a couple of questions here. Do you use it only for videos or stills as well? I use it for both. It really depends on what I'm doing. I do have an older bag the Think Tank has discontinued that I dedicate for some of my video and audio gear, but you can certainly use it for both depending upon what you need to make it for. It works out quite well. Do you ever feel like you need extra support offered by the harness? Yes. If I'm carrying a lot of gear, if I have 2 or 3 lenses in there, or if I'm carrying a lot, or if I'm carrying it for an extended period of time, absolutely, I'm probably going to need to have an additional system to keep it up all day, basically a set of suspenders. That's what these are, and you can get these. They attach to the rings here and the rings here on the front, and that will allow you to attach them, and then they go basically like this, and you would attach them in the front and then in the back, and it'll give you a little additional support. A cool thing about these is you can put these underneath a jacket or a suit coat or something like that, a sport coat, and be perfect for you. They won't even know that it's there, but you'll still be able to have everything in there. It's nice to be able to move around, not have to think about it, not have to worry about sitting your bag down. There's a lot of huge advantages for using a belt system like this. Now, if you wanted a hybrid system, you could go with one of these bags. This one is called the Speed Freak. Basically, it gives you a little bit of room on the inside for a camera, whatever. Still goes around your waist. With the belt systems, you can still add the expandable pockets right here if you want to. Okay, they'll give you that option. Goes around your waist, like I said, and then you have your shoulder harness, which is optional. You can take it off or leave it on, and so that's another way that you can kind of get away as a hybrid kind of a thing. Whereas if you weren't doing it all the time, but you needed a simple little go bag, quick little bag to carry, this is a great system and a great way to go. One other thing, a couple more questions that you have. Is it weatherproof? Yes, Think Tank does. In most of their bags, they provide one of the rain covers. And so with the rain covers, I don't know that they say weatherproof, but I have had their gear out in, hard rain, snow, whatever, and I've not had any issues with that. So, knock on wood, it's good. Obviously, you need to insure it, but there you go. This thing will do the trick, and you put this over top of that, and it will cover it and keep all of the rain out. So that's what those things are for. Most of them have them built in. I'm trying to think. I think there's one in the bottom of this, which I never took out. Oh, nope, there it is. It's actually in a separate pocket. Ta-da! So they built that in right there so that you can slide that right over top. I should have thought about this before, but you can slide that over top of the bag and keep all of the rain and weather out. Perfect. There you go. So that would keep your rain and your weather out of that bag. And so they make them for a lot of the different bags. They're usually stuck all the way down on the bottom of them. And it will say right on the website if it comes with that or not. How much gear can you comfortably carry on the belt? All depends on your size, and that's a sliding scale. Just like everything photography, it depends. I wouldn't be hanging a 300 2.8 from it. I don't think I'd want that on my shoulder. I wouldn't want that on my hips. But I don't see why you couldn't get a spare body, and batteries and a couple of lenses on there easily. And I could probably do that without the additional harness system. Just as is, you just need to make it nice and tight. You probably won't want anything else on your pants belt. If you carry a pants belt, probably won't want anything on there like a knife or anything like that. You want to leave that clear. Probably will end up working out a little bit better if you do that. But yeah, I don't see why you couldn't carry a bunch of gear, probably 20 pounds on there if you distribute it right. Personally, I end up, like I said, putting it on and sliding it towards the back. A lot of times when I'm actually shooting, I like to keep it kind of out of my way, and so that's the method that I use. Try them out. Love the Think Tank bags. You can grab a Think Tank bag from the link here or the link on the website. Anything you buy from them, it would be greatly appreciated if you would go to my website first, then over to Think Tank and purchase anything. You actually get a free gift by doing that. You get an additional bag, so make sure you check them out. I think that is it for today's show. Any questions, please let me know. I also want to add some additional features to the weekly show, which with some photo reviews. So if you want your photo reviewed, please tweet them over to me, and I will add them to the show and critique them. Don't be afraid to post your not best photos, your semi-good photos, sometimes, or your worst photos. Sometimes your worst photos you end up learning more from rather than showing off your best photos. So think about that. Don't be afraid to post some of the older ones or the ones that are not quite as good. So just a thought. Thanks, guys. Keep shooting. See you.